Today is Tuesday, November 19th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, it's seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, it's seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shallow from Is Was Brewing, and I'm here with your other co-host and Fade Master for the
Hi,
day.
I'm Serge. This is my voice. The first time I've ever talked. You probably knew it was me based on the fade.
Serge Fade Master. How you doing, Serge?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Batman, Bruce Wayne thing.
Totally. Yeah.
I've been Serge all along. I've just been.
The Fade Master is the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, actually, maybe I'm more like Clark Kent and Superman because I pretend to be
different.
goofy and bad at my job. So, like when I'm
Does Clark
here,
Kent do that?
well, kind of. He's kind of goofy, maybe not bad at his job, but he's kind of like a klutz, right?
Is he?
I think he is. Yeah, he is in the movies. Christopher Reeve was in the movies.
I mean, well, just he fell off that horse doesn't mean he's a klutz, dude.
No, in the movies, the character.
It's pretty rude of you.
No, I think it was pretty rude of you, by the way.
You said it.
No, he's very klutzy in the movies. I actually saw the movies. So, did you see all the 80s?
Of course not. Dude.
Yeah, so you
I haven't seen any of the Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah. Well, this was...
I've seen like one Iron Man, I think.
Okay. Which one?
I think the second
The one with Ozzy in it?
I think the second one. Which one is Don Cheadle?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I like
haven't
Don
se-
Cheadle a lot.
I've only seen the first one as well. So
Look at us.
All right, we're off to a good start.
So tuned in to culture.
So how are you?
I'm good, Chris. We brewed some beer at our brewery for the first time since the last time we had a show. We brewed twice, actually.
Nice.
We were over gravity on one of them, which for a bad brewer like me is hard to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we did that, yeah.
So you're going to dry it out and make it super strong.
Yeah, it's going to
And
be
you've moved-
5.6 instead of 5.3%.
Since I've last seen you, you've moved to your winter chambray, I see.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just chambray. This is just like
Well, it's
cotton.
the closest you could approximate.
thick wove.
So, yeah.
I've got two of these, actually. One that's darker, one that's lighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's seasonal.
Yeah,
Kidding.
exactly. Well, that's huge news that you're actually brewing.
Yeah, we've moved everything up. We've moved in. Everything is connected. Most of it works mostly how it's supposed to, which is kind of a miracle at this point. And, yeah, nothing's blown up, knock on wood. Boiler makes weird noises sometimes, but we're not going to think about that too much.
I mean, it's nothing like the boiler. Oh, no, that was the actual kettle at Batham.
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I don't think OSHA would allow that.
No. Sweating, the bolts sweating steam.
Yeah.
that come in. Yeah, that's probably not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. What'd you brew?
We brewed a big old batch of Wilby.
Nice. So now it's going to be Imperial Wilby, double Wilby.
But that one we actually hit gravity on. We missed gravity on a version of Tree Tipper that's going into gin barrels. So
Got it.
and a Malort barrel.
So what's in it? What the tree? Like a sequoia, maybe. Sequoia tip.
Yeah, redwood. It's the biggest.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You can use that one.
Thank you so
You're
much. I
welcome.
definitely will.
Good. I'm
What's
going
new
to
with
hold you
you?
to that. Boy, not much. Been making, been cooking. Don't want to be doing that necessarily, but until we get our kitchen back up and running, the little bar snacks are made by yours truly. What do you think about that?
Oh, no.
Yeah. People love them. People have been ripping through them, too.
Yeah.
They don't even know. They're like, oh, man, Ryan's stuff is so good.
Little do they know.
Little do they know. It's me.
Do you think they'd stop ordering if they knew it was you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they would.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
What's your favorite snack to make?
We only.
Oh, it's the mix.
Yeah, we do the mix
The
and
pub
the
mix.
pizzas. So I probably prefer making the pizzas to the snack mix.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Nice.
anyway,
You
can have some.
You
You
can
can let
lunch
me know.
lady dreams.
I know wear a hairnet, and for the little hair I have.
To make them extra sloppy for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to. Just kind of run around.
This is
being
why
crazy.
This is why we don't win awards.
Yeah. I've got a big delivery going out. Yeah. Big delivery going out to Fobab.
Of pizzas?
Yeah. No. Of beer. High Life, of course.
Oh, okay.
That's what they called us. You know, when you need High Life, who do you go to? The Beer Temple. So, but thanks to them
course.
anyway. Prairie
Nice.
Malt and yeah.
I'll be
few
dropping
others.
off like $1,400 worth of beer for them to lose 2 awards.
Okay, cool. But you're being compensated for it in exposure.
Yeah, that's the opposite. I have to pay them $100 to give them $1,500 worth of beer. $200 to give them $1,500 worth of beer. So, you know.
Money
Why-
well spent. You can't afford not to, really, if you think about it, if you do the math.
Yeah.
So anyway,
You know, just because it was like 50% of the entire batch. But what did I do?
you know, don't worry. Once you get that hardware, you'll get a tattoo of it.
Yeah.
And then no regrets.
We don't even have any bottles left to sell people if we win.
True.
I'm the worst businessman
Yeah.
in the world.
There you go.
Anyway,
That's what your next. That's what your rebrew will be called.
let me have an existential crisis while you.
Perfect.
Interview,
All right.
like,
Well,
introduce our
we do
next guest.
have a panel. We should move on. We have gotten our notes from the Guild of Beer Writers said that we tend to ramble and that we didn't sound as modern and we sounded more like a radio show. Little do they know we are a radio show. Speaking of which, thanks to 105.5 FM for continuing to put us on the airwaves.
Do they
Open
know
Radio, WLPN.
Do they know they're still putting us on the radio?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Jamie knows.
Yeah.
Serge probably knows.
Yeah.
So yes, thanks to them as always, and thanks to the listeners who listen on WLPN and who listen to us on whatever podcast listening devices and apps that they use. Probably iTunes, judging from the metrics. Most of them do it on iTunes. Spotify catching up, but you know.
Look out, Rogan.
Exactly. Exactly. Speaking of which, they we've been offered a lot of money to go exclusive with a podcast.
Exclusive with a podcast?
A podcast provider.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one?
It's
I missed the email.
it's a Chinese knockoff version. It's called Sportify, but I thought it might be good.
Sportify, and they're getting a beer podcast on the Sportify network?
Yeah. Yeah.
Highly unusual.
Hey,
All right, let's do it.
let's do it. So, yeah. So anyway, we're going to go exclusive in a little bit with that.
Ni hao.
Yeah. We have some guests, and we should get to that. We're going to, as we always do, introduce our guests in order of seniority. Seniority being how many times they've been on the show, the only seniority that you and I care about, and our listeners. So the senior member of the roundtable today is Mr. Adam Vavrick. What's up, dude? Been a while.
Hi.
Been a while.
Been
it
a
has
while.
Been. It has been quite some time. Nice to see you all.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
What's new with you?
Since when? Since like last time I was here, or like, do we want to?
I don't know.
Pick
Book
an
a timetable?
arbitrary-
What are you up to?
I don't know. A lot.
Okay, cool. This is going well.
Maybe they weren't wrong
let's,
about us.
let's go back to the
No.
banter. Hey,
I don't know.
we won gold in that. So we
In banter.
No, at the North American Guild of Beer Awards.
Beer writers.
What are beer writers? You can tell.
We really care about it.
Yeah, I do really care a lot.
Top shelf edition. No,
Top
I don't know.
shelf.
I've been real busy with beer on the wall out in the suburbs, sort of being the business development guy and tightening bolts on ships and things like that. And then, Beer Culture Summit just happened. I'm on the board of the Beer Culture Center.
That's cool.
And that went really well this year. Really great stuff. Unfortunately, I missed the last day of it because I had to catch a flight out to upstate New York to go and peep Leafs. I did. It was by happenstance, but
Okay.
I saw, I think, friend of the show Ryan Burke.
Yes.
Hung out with
Okay.
him at Hudson Valley Brewing, and
Cool.
went to the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors.
Okay.
You can Google it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, just been doing
Perhaps
that kind of
I will.
stuff. And then the last week has all been real busy with Wax Trax Records and the Front 242's last 2 shows in the United States, and helping with that exhibition. And
Tell me about the Beer Culture Summit. What was your highlight? The highlight event of the summit for you?
I think the event at Rev Kedzie was really good on just the history of death, and as it relates to, liquid funerary rites. So this idea of things like the ofrenda, down south in Central America and Mexico, and as a tribute to lost relatives, and how what they consumed was very integral to some of those ofrendas. And then also in Ireland, for example,
The Irish Wake?
the Irish Wake for sure. But we're talking about going thousands of years
Ancient,
back,
okay.
where vessels holding the remnants of beverages have been utilized as a way of honoring the dead for a very long time. And it, we always think of beer as so celebratory towards life, but I think it's really cool that we sort of took an angle and twisted it to say it was a celebration of the end of life as well. And I thought that was very beautiful and touched my goth soul in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked that event.
Cool.
I thought it was really great. We had it was those 2, and then there was another a scholar from, I believe, I'm going to forget which country it is, but one of the Scandinavian countries that sort of goes through some of the, I don't want to call it ancestor worship, but the idea of a family beverage that that passes down, and all that sort of comes with recipes and memories of those who have passed, and the beverages, again, that they consumed, and that what you consume in that space is sort of familial. And it was really, like I said, it was just an interesting sort of view at the gem through a different facet. That is beer.
Mike, you've had a lot of deep thoughts about how beer or alcohol in general, or maybe it was just food, and how people have such a connection to it versus other things that they use because they put it in their body.
Yeah, I mean, other things that people consider like creative fields, like
Right.
food and beverage is like the only one that gets kind of that credit, but also it becomes part of you. Like it fuels your body, it goes inside your body and then turns into your body in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think the experiential part of beer is something that I've always tried to tell the story of. And it speaks very directly to that idea of not only consumption, but absorption, and how you really take something and make it your own. And when you have an experience, and this is, maybe for younger drinkers, over 21, of course, but younger drinkers that, might have their first, IPA or first beer and food pairing that blows their effing mind or whatever. Those things are usually a matter of consumption, but the memory that's created and unlocked when those sensory things sort of happen is such a beautiful and life-changing experience that it's worth remarking upon in a really, really large way.
I think there's something like almost sacred in the making of it too. This like very fundamental idea of taking things that like was made by the earth and the sun and like that are of the earth, and then using technique and knowledge and observation to transform them and reorganize those things into something that we drink or experience and perceive. And there's something very like special that isn't there in like painting or isn't there in like music necessarily. Like it could be like we're literally, there's a reorganization of things from the earth to create something that we can perceive as beautiful, which is pretty special.
Interestingly enough, at the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in Wappingers Falls, New York, the lecture for the evening at Full Moon Festival was natural mysticism, and there was a large presentation by the artists who own the place, Alex and Allison Gray, about the natural art that exists both found in nature and in, everywhere from, the fractalized constellations of the Milky Way to, all kinds of stuff like that, to, the fractals in cruciferous vegetables, and then how we sort of recontextualize that in art and put that back out. And there's like a mystical thing that goes all the way back to, and I would argue it's pre-mystical, that just goes back to the fundamentals of, human existence, of finding out how we exist and, not knowing why, and just figuring out how to move forward and make food that we can feed ourselves with and all that. And of course that then comes through in the art. And the last little ramble I want to say about that is that, as an art form, I think one of my favorite parts about brewing and food and food culture and things like that is the ephemeral nature of it. In art, these are things that sometimes tangibly exist in a space or on a canvas or, recorded in some sort of medium for music. Food is something that you only really get once in that way, and then it's gone. And I love that. I think there's a real beauty in something that exists only in that space and at that time.
I also found it something very akin to live music insofar as that aspect of it, also that it's one of the few things that you can only perceive over the course of time, right? Like you look at a painting and certainly you can feel differently about a painting looking at it, but that painting is fundamentally not going to change really. But like there's film, there's music, and there's like consumption of food and beverage that like you have to experience through time, and like the amount of time it takes for something to happen has an effect on how you feel about the art or the creative expression you're consuming, which is really fun. It's all tied up into our name a lot.
It is. It's a lot of that, ephemeral and something of the earth that I input. That's when you were thinking about that relationship. I was thinking that's kind of the same feeling I have when I use Gwyneth Paltrow's skincare products. Of the earth, ephemeral, really ingesting them.
Sure.
And making
you're not
a better
supposed to do that
person.
part.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
It depends.
Sometimes I like them so much I just need to.
It's a soap eater.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Creams. Serums.
Yeah. You're a goop guy.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a goop guy. There's a bunch of us.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have another guest. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah.
We'll come back to you
Of course.
in the Temple of Mirrors. It's first-time guest, I believe. So,
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
yes. So, first-time guests have to introduce themselves. So, if you would, let everyone know who you are and what you do in the world of beer.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Samantha Lee, and I am one of the co-founders of Hopewell Brewing Company. Serge emailed me, and I said, "Are you sure? I don't know anything. You still want me?"
Sure.
And he said, "Yes, here's some dates."
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
You're the wait, Jonathan's been on a lot.
Jonathan's
The
been
hot-
on. Jake's
hot
been
take.
Hot
on.
take.
Hot Take Jake's been on.
Yeah.
Steven.
Has
Steven?
Steven's
Okay,
one
so
was
I
on
talked to
once, a long
him.
time
I
ago,
talked,
right?
yes, back when it was in Bridgeport.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
A long time ago, probably 8 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow, the show's been on
Long time ago.
We're old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're old.
Yes.
Well, thanks. Sorry it took you so long, us so long to.
It's all right.
Yeah, but you've been your company has been well represented on our show.
Hopewell represented.
Yeah, hope well represented. I mean, I think you're well represented when you have somebody with a fake eyeball glued to their forehead.
A gnome to beer now, too.
Yeah, it's true. So, awesome. What's new at Hopewell?
What's new at Hopewell?
Nothing.
I don't know. Yeah, making beer, selling beer, making THC drinks.
That's right.
Selling THC drinks. Let's see. We medaled at GABF. That's a big deal for us.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we submit each year. Sort of. Let's see. We send beer out knowing that it's good beer and think, well, we're not gonna medal. Like, well, whatever. Doesn't matter. And then, but when we did medal, obviously we were
Right.
extremely
this is
psyched.
Huge.
Right.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
That's the whole thing with award ceremonies. Like, I don't even really care if we
I don't
win.
care.
I don't
It
even
doesn't
want
matter.
to.
Nothing
It doesn't
matters.
mean anything.
What is winning?
And then when they call your name, you're like literally
Yeah.
crawling over
You
people
idiots.
to collect
Yeah.
the...
You don't even know how to make Hellas Lager,
Yeah.
you dummies.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was great. We were really excited. Just it's nice. It's a nice, pat in the back for sure.
And which beer was this?
It was tank beer,
Yeah.
is-
And
yep.
what was the category?
Zwickel,
Zwickel.
to unfiltered lagers.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So pretty proud of that. It's a great category to win in. It's a new beer for us, so relatively
great.
new this year. Pretty proud of it.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
a shame that it happened in the year that the first year that their awards don't truly mean anything, since
Fatheads didn't
medal for IPA or Dunkelweiss,
So-
or maybe it did for Dunkelweiss. I don't know.
We created a protest pathway to protest the entire award ceremony and redo it. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. But
It's okay.
Fathead's gotta see its due.
Yeah, it's okay. Headhunter, is it really an award if Headhunter doesn't win? I don't think so.
Not for us.
Yep.
I got to
Anyway,
speak at the Beer and Culture Summit though. That was back in. Was it September?
Yeah. Yeah.
was cool.
October, September?
Yeah.
Late September?
Yeah,
that sounds right.
It was at Studio Gang, which I'd never been there before.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. So cool to be in that rooftop space. I got to learn about birds and all the flora and fauna that live on that living rooftop they have. And that's all I wanted to hear about. And then we had to talk about our beer brands, but mostly I wanted to hear about the like greenscape they have and the root system. They keep bees and they get bats up there too, and like 200 varieties of birds. That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And then we did hop selection also.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that was
cool.
my first time out.
yeah,
So that was new, not new to Hopewell, but new for me.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you, Adam, so we'll start with Samantha and come back to you. And then maybe then you could be third, and I'll go last, Mike. Samantha, is there a beer that you've had recently or that you are looking forward to having that kind of caught your attention for any reason? You're pointing at a beer, but...
Well, okay, so I've been looking forward to having a celebration this year. I'm bummed that you don't have any to go.
Just have to swill it here.
You're right. So that's always a nice marker of the season. Speaking of the ephemeral nature of beer and food, I think beer is so tied to memory and just like the feeling of time passing. Mm-hmm. So celebration is that for a lot of people. For me,
Yeah.
certainly. Growing up in the late, like 2010, when was I in college? 2006-ish, when I was learning about craft beer. And Sierra Nevada was such a big part of that when there wasn't as much. Definitely a marker and makes me feel nostalgic.
Let me ask everyone, do you guys feel that there is a bit of a resurgence of, I don't know, cultural coolness in the beer world for Sierra Nevada over the past maybe 3 years? Or no? Or do you think it's just always kind of been there? I don't want to, because I'm not...
I don't know if it's just 3 years. I think it's been a slow build
Okay.
for a while, but certainly accelerating the last 3 years.
Okay, I was going to say maybe 3 or 4, but maybe it's been
I feel
further.
like for things like Celebration, and their
Mm-hmm.
pale ale, but they outsell with their hazy, right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if that has the same sort of like what you're thinking about is like that cool factor, right? There's like a difference between Celebration and their hazy.
Totally. I'm just curious if it's captured, if it's seen as like cooler, more interesting, more desirable in the last couple of years than it has previously. Because I thought it had, and then I asked the Sierra Nevada rep to look up the past numbers, and I forget if they looked it up locally. I thought it was nationally that they looked it up, and it seemed to be kind of steady. And in fact, it might have even been slightly down last year, but by like within margin of error-ish, not like double digits or even high single digits or anything like that.
I think it's been probably pretty close to the same, but I think that there may be a shift towards what people are drinking overall. I think I've spoken about my little wheel theory on this before, where you have sort of 3 interlocking wheels that sort of take you up to the next wheel, and then you kind of glide down to the third wheel, and then that brings you back to the first wheel in like a triangle. And I feel like some of the irrational exuberance of some of the more wilder experimentations that have gone over the past couple of years has sort of coalesced down to where people just kind of want a beer. And I don't say that in a diminutive way at all. I think for a lot of us, pale ale has been ubiquitous and has never really gone away for us. But, people had some beer rum Springer, and now they're kind of coming back and being like, man, that pale ale just hits, or that celebration just hits. And I think that bears itself out with some of the other core brands that are just doing very well in the market overall. So I think it's more of an overarching trend than it is Sierra specifically.
I think there's some some kind of odd prodigal suddenness with Sierra Nevada, where it's something that everyone who gets into beer drinks at least some of early on because it's accessible. And then if you really stay in it, in drinking beer and drinking interesting craft beers, and you go all the way around those wheels, it's still there, and you're the prodigal son, where you come back and you're like, oh, Dad still loves me, and this still tastes as vibrant and fresh and but also the same as when I had it last time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it does. When you get back to that, I just want a beer. They're the perfect version of it because they were there at the beginning for you, and they're still there right now.
Well, your mention of the word fresh also kind of hits my radar a little bit too. The things in the suburbs are a little different than they are in the city. I am learning, and the freshness factor is huge. I mean, that's one that I will not buy unless it's fresh. And the irony to this is it's one of the best pale ale recipes on the planet. It probably holds up better than most of the others, but there's a perceptible difference along the way. And supply chain management is huge when it comes to ensuring repeat buys. That experience of having one of the fresh ones is, that will keep you coming back for more. But if it's consistently not where you want it to be, then you won't. And I don't know, just anecdotally, probably the biggest hindrance to my own purchasing of Sierra Nevada products is that they don't really send the stuff I want to drink out. I miss the porter and I miss the stout. But I buy tons of Celebration and Pale Ale and Bigfoot all the time.
Yeah. Solid. I don't know. For whatever reason, I thought it was in the beer geek or the craft beer consumer zeitgeist. Maybe I've just been noticing it more, or the people I follow, I've been talking about it more.
I wonder. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it could be this beer flavored beer, right? That people were really craving in the last couple years. Mm-hmm. Really focused on lager. But there's space for hoppy beer in that, and that's where I think Sierra Nevada.
What other beer
really
is like that though? Celebration. Name another beer that's still around that tastes kind of like anything like Celebration. It's so much more malty and so much more bitter.
Yeah.
I think it's an archetype for a lot of what Half Acre tries to do with seasonal IPAs, where they have specifically redder IPAs in the winter, and if you look at, I forget which one it is in the winter.
Tome, right?
No, I don't think Tome's the winter one. Whatever one it is.
Yep.
It looks you would pour it next to Celebration and be like, this is pretty similar looking.
I mean, we make a winter IPA, and it's similar.
Yeah, right.
It's a classic homebrew recipe too. And it's not obviously, but that's what when you get into homebrewing, what's one of the first couple beers that you make, right? A pale ale, and then you do an IPA.
Right. Because those hops you're going to buy suck. So what can you do? It's color it with malt.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think malt is going to see a comeback in pale ales? Do you think?
I hope so.
I think.
Be interesting to see
so.
it. They've gone so pale.
Seasonally.
Maybe.
IPA I think is so big and fractured now. I doubt you'd have a super malty IPA that's being made by a lot of people in the summer.
Does it need a name? Does it need to have a name, though? Does it need to have a Czech dark lager?
Malty boy.
Yeah,
Malty
right?
boy.
Malt bomb.
No. Bring malt bomb back.
But in a positive way.
Yeah. Aged IPA.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sierra Nevada also has this thing that a lot of other breweries don't do as successfully, of existing in these two streams of hazy little thing being this juggernaut, but most of the people that we know, I don't think had maybe had a couple of them in their entire life. Like they're not going to the grocery store and picking up
Right.
hazy little thing.
Right.
No.
It's at
But-
the barbecue that you go to.
Yeah, but people that are in our circles are like, oh, every time I see fresh near about a pale ale, I drink that, or I'll drink Celebration or Bigfoot. But
Yeah.
like they successfully attract very different customers. That
Yeah.
probably like I don't know how much the hazy little thing drinkers are drinking other Sierra Nevada beers.
And your point about the malty and aggressively bitter beers makes me think, makes me wonder how some of the older California double and triples would do these days, like Moylan's Hopsicle or like
Right.
Port's Hop.
Well, that's your
15,
third
whatever.
gear, your third wheel. I mean, I was just going to say,
Right.
well, when are the triple IPAs coming back?
Well, I mean, and to Samantha's point about beer flavored beer and lager sort of taking the cake, where did you go when all of us at the table? Where did you go once you kind of were experimenting?
Well,
past
Belgian
lager?
is where I went next.
Belgian, sure,
So maybe that's coming back.
Resurgence of the
Mike.
quad.
but
Let's go.
IPAs and I think like that
Say
are
something.
probably a big portion of what people consumed along their beer journey in that way.
Yeah. Well, we got to come up with a name, a catchy new name, like pub ale or something like that for a
Malt bomb.
Malt bomb.
Yeah,
Malt bomb. That's catchy.
it's catchy. Who doesn't want a bomb?
A malt bomb
People
style
love it.
ale.
It's the bomb.
Malt summer
Yeah.
next year. Malt summer.
So,
Malt Samar.
Adam, is there any beer
Yeah.
that you've had lately, or that you're looking forward to having? That comes to mind for you.
Yeah, there's two actually, and this is going to sound like pandering, but it absolutely is not. The beer that I was most thrilled about
Was
today.
the Hopewell was collaboration?
No, it was.
If when,
But it was-
I had a bottle of If when.
Nice.
All three of it.
It
versions.
was-
I wasn't confused at all.
It was
what
consumed before I was knowing. I knew I was coming on the podcast tonight, but it was the Hopewell Harvest Pale, which, when we talk about experiential beers and some of the sensory things around that, the first thing that hit me was like, and this is going to sound way out of left field. I don't know if it's right. Goshi Farms Amarillo hops was like, it just blasted me in the face. Those old school Amarillos that we used to always remember, from growing up with Gumball Head and Alpha King and all that. And it just had all of that powdered sugar and juicy fruit bubblegum just blast in the face. It's like, man, this is awesome. I was so happy, and I just kept pouring that for people today. We actually do have tank beer on too right now.
Nice.
But that was what I was very excited about at my shift today, and when anybody was like, "What am I drinking today?" That was the answer.
Hell yeah.
And then just for what I'm looking forward to, I always look forward to Alpha Claws. That is still, to this day, one of my favorite beers.
Agreed.
This
I
Wookiee Jack
second
I'm
that.
drinking is great, but it's like a precursor to what can be.
Well, I think Alpha Claus was the precursor to the Black IPA. Really?
I meant for me this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
But
I
yeah.
hear you. Yeah, Alpha Claus, great beer. The
It is Amarillo.
the hoppy porter.
It is.
From Crosby.
Oh, Cross. Okay.
So it's fresh hop. So
So you were wrong, is what
You're
she
wrong
said.
and right.
I was half right. I'll take
Well,
half
let's
right.
just
So-
say
I mean, when you
wrong.
call it the farm, you get that. That's like bonus
that's
points if you
something
call it the
else.
specific farm.
But
so.
but
It's a
there,
cool farm.
There
Very
are
cool
people
farm.
that know.
Very cool farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they take the fresh hop full cone and pelletize the fresh hop immediately from the field. So it's like an in-between between fresh hop and what we get, T90 pellets. So it's like super sticky, like very hard to work with. So I'm glad you
It
picked
comes
up on
through,
it.
and it's just spectacular.
Mike, you're up.
I had a beer outside of my own brewery for the first time, and
look at
outside of the
you.
brewery and here or my house for the first time in a long time. Not to jump the outline, but I went to Suncatcher over the weekend, and I had the one I particularly liked was the stout. It was like just a 5%
Yeah, I had that.
stout.
Very good.
Yeah, it was just called stout.
Nice.
It hit the spot. Cute little spot they have there, and yeah, that was what I enjoyed.
Very cool.
recently. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Have we talked about the Sierra Nevada cask event? Did we already talk about that here?
I don't think
The
so.
one that we did, or the one that you did?
Oh, you did a cask event too?
Got him.
Of course. Nice. Well, you're welcome. I thought it was really interesting on cask how it kind of melded and became so English in nature. The hops were much more subdued. I don't know if they changed any of the hopping rates or anything like that. It was definitely the bottle version, not the draft version, that they put into cask 2, because it was at the bottled strength, which the draft Sierra Nevada and bottle Sierra Nevada are technically like two different sub-styles of the same beer. They're 0.5% different.
Yep.
And the draft one's drier. But, the sweeter, kind of maltier nature of it was really cool. And was it better than Sierra Nevada on draft? I don't know. But it was really good. And it was like one of the better casks I've had here for a while. And was cool how it just kind of like seamlessly kind of just shifted and felt very at home on the cask too, which I think a lot of hoppy pale ales would probably not present as well on a cask. Were you going to say something, Adam?
I was, yeah. The Sierra cask is always such a unique thing. We got them back in the Public and Anchor days. So back when I was still at One Off Hospitality, this would have been 2017 maybe. I got them to send some up. I feel like you got some of those too. I feel like
we got a torpedo.
Okay, that was it. And I remember having that conversation because, you know, the difference between bottle and draft has always been fairly standard. And they always told me that the cask was the draft, so the slightly less hoppy version of it. But I was told that there are also casks only at Chico of the bottled version, which... And I don't know what we actually got sent, so I'm glad that you're clarifying.
Yeah, it was the bottled version.
Yeah, and it was really spectacular. The other thing I'll say, to harken back to what I was mentioning about just how good of a recipe that is, you know, we both use the same. We use a Widge. You don't use a breather, do you?
Yep, we use a
you
Widge
do?
and a breather. Yep.
Okay, so we've got a Widge but no breather. And that cask lasted, both firkins that we got lasted longer and held together better than any other beer that we've had. We always tap on Fridays, and then we're usually, especially if there's a football game on, English football, we'll run through them quicker, but they're usually gone by Sunday afternoon, or I'll pull them by Sunday because I just won't serve them. These held till I think through Monday, and we got through both casks with flying colors. They sold it sold great, but it also just it held together beautifully. It was really remarkable what those guys can execute. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting. A variation from cask to cask too, at least on the ones we had, which was interesting. But I had Stevie Hamburg in here. Was asking him why. He was giving me his thoughts on the cask variation.
What did he say?
Like that.
Did he give you any complaints about the
Condition.
the lacing? Did he talk to you about lacing? Have you heard his lacing thing? All right,
I don't know what you're talking
We'll put
about.
that on the outline for later.
Yeah, no, he's been on here and we've talked about it on the show.
I don't listen.
Jonathan
Yeah.
sends you pictures
I
of
don't listen.
lacing
Yes,
all the time, right?
the Lacing Lads.
Yeah.
It's a text group that he and I are on.
I want to be in the Lacing Lab.
Okay, well, you can join.
Thank you.
But no, he didn't. What he said was, places in England probably not probably have like machinery of some kind of mechanizing, like dosage and everything like that, for any sort of like repitching or anything like that.
Priming
And
sugar.
they're just doing it. One-off, kind of like just measuring it, and there's just going to be variations in how they do it naturally, and that's probably what's coming across. It sounded good enough to me. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Good.
Steve Hamburg said it?
Yeah. Well, we take a break, get a refresh, and then we'll come back and we'll start with the first topic of our outline. It's only been 40 minutes. So, okay, we'll be back shortly with the Beer Temple podcast.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Beer Temple podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Schlav, Isabel's Brewing. I'm here with your other co-host, Chris Quinn of the Beer Temple, and our esteemed guests, Samantha Lee of Hopewell and Adam Vavrick of Business Development at Beer on the Wall. Sorry.
Sure. You want to try
Well,
that again?
see, in my head, the Instagram tags are "We have great beer," so I needed to stall myself to actually say the real name of the business instead of the Instagram tag. So I had to put that in there. My bad.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
Never happens to me.
the RB Dragons for you.
Yeah.
We were talking about something on break that is intriguing. That to us,
Intriguing
at
to
least.
us. Yeah.
Samantha, what did you ask us while we were on
I
break?
said, do you think pumpkin beers are coming back?
And you don't mean like right now. You mean
No.
like next year.
Too late
Culturally,
now.
will they come
Too
back?
late now.
Yeah.
Too late
But I
now.
think- but
Although
is it
now's the
a-
time for them, I think. Now's the time that people want them.
Right. But
Yeah.
I think what you said also earlier in break, the pumpkin spice latte craze, I think people were like poo-pooing it for a couple of years, and now people are like, nah, never mind.
It's actually
I'm okay
delicious.
with it.
Yeah, it is delicious.
Yeah.
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 It's like this nutmeg and clove and cinnamon. Everyone loves that.
Yeah. So is there something about pumpkin beers that has that similar pull?
I think they need. I think there's two problems with it. I think one,
They're not good.
they're not available anymore.
No one makes them. Yeah.
They're and they all we had to put our order in. I think this year for the one that we really like, which is the
Hogs.
whole hog,
Whole hog.
from Point, which is
That one, yes.
the best one, I think.
Yep.
And we had to put in our pre-order in like April, and then it came in like July, and they're like, "It's in. You have to take it now." We're like, "Fine." So we would like put it in the back for a little while, and then like start putting it out probably in like late August or early September, maybe September, and now it's all gone, and now people are asking for it. I'm like, well, it's gone.
So
that's
outside
a
of
problem,
Pumpkin
I
beer,
think.
is that sort of like seasonal creep going to be a thing that like obviously messed up pumpkin beer, but it's going to mess up like other styles?
Like, when do you slot it in?
Like
After
Oktoberfest?
Oktoberfest?
Right.
Yeah.
Are Oktoberfests going to fall out of fashion because they're getting sold earlier and earlier, and people will be like,
They certainly are getting sold earlier and earlier.
It's just they're selling out
Earlier.
sooner. Yeah, earlier and
We
earlier
were out
to
of our
compensate.
Oktoberfest super early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And
like,
I
are
think-
people? Is there going to be a point where like 1 or 2 years, people are just going to be like, no, I don't want it in May. I don't want like it in June, and then just be like
And there
not
won't be any.
drink Oktoberfest. Well, then they would buy it, so then it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't know. I just feel like when I see stuff that early, I'm like, I don't.
It's annoying.
I'm done with
Oktoberfest,
this.
I think, is more ingrained.
It's like Christmas trees being up in October.
which is also objectively terrible.
Yeah. You probably have feelings about it just being objectively terrible if they're up at all.
Yeah.
But we don't have to talk about yours
Really hate Christmas.
Should we talk about religion?
Oh no, I just hate Christmas.
or lack of it.
The thing about pumpkin beers is they're different from Oktoberfest in that Oktoberfest has so much else going for it when
Right,
it comes
right,
to a
right.
history and culture. A country
Just the
and
flavor
the immigrants
appeal of it.
that have come over here and all that has so much more. And the history of pumpkin beer that we were talking about during the break is actually particularly interesting for those interested in the history of North America, and that is a story that could be told, but
nobody cares about
It
that
has been
story.
told on
I
this
disagree.
podcast.
I think people do care about it. I think the problem is that it's a mixed message because then we have the consumerism nonsense of pumpkin spice latte, which I'm not crapping on pumpkin spice lattes or anything like that, but it's become this sort of ubiquitous marketing thing the way that Black Friday is, where you just know it's just a stampede for a TV.
I think the pumpkin beer might have led to the pumpkin spice latte because it certainly predates it. The pumpkin spiced beer,
I don't
and
know
that's
about
different
that.
from a pumpkin beer, is old. I don't know how old the pumpkin spice latte is, but like pumpkin beer is from like I think the late 80s or something. It's old.
You're probably right, but I don't. But
It's called like Wild Bills or Buffalo Bills or something like that. We can look it up.
I can
and-
picture it. It's the black and green label with the. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
to think
Yeah, I
about
don't know.
that.
You're
Think you have
probab-
pumpkin
you're-
spice latte. You have pumpkin beer to thank for it.
Buffalo Bills.
See,
Yeah,
another
I
reason
think
why
so.
I
pumpkin
think it does
beer is terrible.
respond to like people and young people being really hedonistic, like hedonistic for the things that they're like it tastes good or like I like it because I like it, and so I wonder if pumpkin beer falls in that like
But
realm.
are those people who are drinking? Are those people who want that in a beverage going to go get that from a beer? And if they are, like, are those the people who are just going to drink Juice Force, like
Yeah.
Ranger IPA, or are
yeah,
they?
maybe it's not a craft beer drinker.
Right. Maybe it's not a craft beer.
But we all said the same thing about the key lime pie smoothies and
Yeah.
all that stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have become so ubiquitous in the industry too. And so maybe this is just another angle at the same
Right.
idea of creating a drinking experience featuring spices or flavors or
Right.
whatever that a consumer is looking for.
Right. While you go peeping leaves.
I think
know?
we're also
Right.
seeing some set of the consumer
Beacon, New
base
York.
that is young enough to not, like, kind of the post-COVID of age
Totally.
drinkers that don't have the same baggage that
Yes.
a lot of us, like, elder millennials have about styles of beer and what they mean when you drink them and what they've evolved into for a while. Like, we're seeing a lot of younger people that, not like, 21-year-olds, but like 24 to 26-year-olds coming into the tap room that never had a Saison.
Have you had a 24-year-old on? You should.
We had a 20. How old was Connor? Was probably, he's referred to himself as younger.
Connor's a name for someone that's about 38. at
He
this
was not
point.
38. He's,
I don't think he was 24.
Yeah, it was 24. I think he was like probably 26.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Pretty young.
But we didn't ask him. He just kept referring to himself as a younger beer drinker, which means he could have been 34.
When was he here?
True.
He guest
Couple
hosted the
weeks ago.
podcast. He won Doug's silent auction.
Irrelevant. Yeah.
But when?
What was
what
irrelevant
year?
about
Was
that?
it this year? Last
This year.
2 years ago? Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
okay,
this
yeah.
year. Yeah, it was this year.
I thought he was like wanted to know what date, and I was like, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah. It was episode whatever
Yeah,
number
yeah.
that was.
Just
It
looking
came
for
out
a rough.
3 weeks, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, 3 weeks ago. But I think there's like a whole generation of people that might be interested in beer that don't have the same like baggage we have, where like pumpkin came out too early, and then it got too sweet. It came out too early, and blah blah blah. And like that
Hop
pumpkin
Leaf
chucking
was
was
better
a
last year,
weird
or,
part of that.
not Hop Leaf,
Hop Leaf,
Hop
Hop
Slam.
Leaf has never been better.
Hop Slam.
Yeah.
That's true. They also, there's that conversation about how there's so much choice in the market, and with cocktail culture being so ubiquitous in the way that it is, that this generation of drinkers that's sort of coming up right now can just design an experience around what they want to have rather than options that are already out there.
That's just culture in general, though.
Well,
Like younger people can just design their whole life around
Absolutely.
what they want.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy.
It's an extension.
I mean, we all
of-
do it now, but like
Yeah.
some people that are like not that much younger than us, their entire life has just been, I can watch what I want when I want to watch it, and I can drink what I want when I want to drink it, more or less.
I can't get my kids to only watch one thing. Like they
Yeah.
they
This
like
podcast?
double screen
Oh my god.
all the time. Like
Yeah.
my son especially will play a game on his iPad while he has in the background of a YouTube video on that he's listening to on headphones. So he's
Wild.
doing this, and then this is off, and then playing with his iPad, and then off to the kind of at 2:00 is his screen, and he'll do that then sometimes while the family is watching a show. So he'll have 3 things going on at once, and I'll be like, dude, you have to
You're
stop.
just overstimulated.
You just
Like, what's
have
gonna
to
happen?
stop.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're not going to be able to do anything.
This feels very much like old men yell at clouds, because it's just another generation doing stuff. But like there is like generally like what? How do you like? Where does it go from there?
Oh,
like,
half the time, yeah, when we're watching a movie, he'll also get up and just start like jumping and bouncing behind the. There might be some ADHD things going on there too, but like just can't sit.
Your
sit
lineage?
still.
No way.
Yeah, right, exactly. But anywho, I think with like, are the people there to drink those beers in quantity is kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But if Great Lakes Christmas Ale can get people to come and drink a bunch of them, then I think a certain pumpkin beer could. I don't know if it could be like a pumpkin type thing, but what about the old like Dogfish Pumpkin Ale, which was like a pretty lightly spiced brown ale?
Do they still make that?
I don't. They might, but we don't
It's
see it
probably
here.
tap room only,
Yeah.
pub
Right.
only. Well, that's one of those things. Like a lot of these things that are in this uncanny valley of not being year-round beers and not having audiences that are big enough for them to be made in, tens to hundreds of thousands of barrels, can will probably converge on 1 to 2 examples, right?
Which is, I think, a pretty healthy in a
It's
way.
just natural.
Right.
Like, and then it will ebb and flow of us smaller people being like, I think pumpkin beer is going to be popular next year. We'll make one this year. Like, look at Black IPA, right? Like, 2 years ago or whatever, a few years ago, everyone made one.
Oh, right.
And then,
But the year
then no
before,
one made
right.
one, and then everyone's going to make one again. Or like Wookie Jack is back now. Like, it's just like this cyclical thing of like, I don't know, there'd be like one prime example, and then they'll dominate every year if people actually want it, and then as a smaller people kind of see ebbs and flows and have more intuition-based moves than like numbers-based moves, be like, we really want a pumpkin beer.
I'm vibing with this.
Yeah, like
Right.
that's. I think that's also healthy,
Yeah.
right? Like when you exist like a below the radar in a lot of ways. Like we don't move scan data that big, even at like some of the larger craft breweries. Like you need to be somewhat intuition based, and so as you be like, and there's still something too. Like we make things that we want to drink. It's different now than it was in 2014 when you say that, but like being like we're gonna make 20 barrels of pumpkin beer, like, because we want to drink it. And then, like, other people will drink it too. And they'll be like, oh, this is good. I forgot. Haven't had one of these in a long time.
Yeah.
And, like, that's kind of will be more of a cycle that happens now.
If you really want to get into old man yells at clouds, and Vav, I think you'll be able to
This show does best.
appreciate it. Yeah. Or not appreciate it, but be able to relate. I think now there's a little bit, this isn't quite the right analogy, but like when you see little kids playing like soccer, it's just like one kid will kick the ball and then like everybody swarms to it.
Yeah.
And then they kick the ball in another direction and everybody swarms over there. Like I feel like styles going in and out of style, beer styles going in and out of style are a little bit like that now, where like everybody jumps to this, then everybody leaves that and jumps to it, where, back in our day, like if you went to one brew pub or one brewery and then went to a next, like if you saw Berliner Weiss at one place, you are not going to see one at any of the others.
Well, everyone was making them, but they were making 5 to 10 barrels of it. It's not like they were doing 30 and trying to get distro with it.
Well, I think in your soccer analogy, too, we've gone from like rec 5-year-old soccer where there's no positions and everyone just runs at the ball because that's all that's all the brain capacity these kids can handle is go towards that, kick it that way.
Right.
And like now we're like, as like a generation of craft brewers, it's like, okay, we have positions now, right? Like some people play defense, some people are goalies, some people are attack. But every once in a while, chaos happens, and we're like, we're all going to make black IPAs. And we're like, oh, we all want to score. Everyone wants to score. So, like, we have like, we're more of a lager focus. We're like, we're lighter drinkers. Oh, we're a hazy brewery. Like, but then you also have these things where like, yeah, but we all kind of want to make something.
an Italian Pilsner.
Yeah, we make
Yeah, I was
saisons.
just thinking about Italian.
Or a
pills.
Czech dark.
Right, where it's like, oh, there's a breakaway. Everyone scramble.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's a little bit more advanced than just everyone run after the same ball.
That's why I said it wasn't quite the right analogy, but there's a little bit of, I feel.
I don't think it's a bad analogy. I was furthering the analogy. That,
I think
like,
it's good.
It's a little bit more evolved.
I
right?
think it's good.
Like, we all know, like, you know what? We're really good at this. And we're mostly going to do this. But every once in a while, like, I don't just want to do this. Mm-hmm. So.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, should we get to the outline? Or do we want to talk about pumpkin beers more? There'll be time.
I thought that was
Let's
fun.
move on.
Our recurring segment, Comings and Goings. We should get like a theme song for Comings and Goings.
You should write one. You're the music major.
Why not
Yeah,
do the
I got a
intro
lot of
tune,
time.
but just flipped backwards?
There you go. I'll just
Okay.
record
Pretty
that,
good.
clip it, and that'll be it every time. Perfect.
Yeah, so Comings and Goings is one big one in Chicago. That's
Yeah. Well, two big
end
ones,
of an era.
kinda.
Two big ones on
One
other
bigger.
ends of the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But in the Goings category, Rev's Brew Pub is closing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, after Goose Island closing Clybourne, I think that was like the standard bearer for
Yeah,
like
and
the,
Rock Bottom
the
closing.
classic, right? The classic kind of brew pub.
Yeah.
Is that dead? Is that style of brew pub dead?
No, but I think that this really showed the challenges of what happens. And full disclosure, I did work at Rev for a little while. That particular stretch of Milwaukee Avenue in Logan Square has changed drastically.
So much, and because of them in some ways.
Oh, they were an early.
They were
So
very
for people
early.
not from Chicago, it was a kind of a rough, up and coming area.
So many Williamsburg or Brooklyn type analogies could be made to that stretch of Logan, I think.
Sure, and Rev's Brew Pub, which was their only production facility. It was that was Revolution Brewing. They
Yeah.
were there.
Yeah.
They opened there, and was one of the first
2010.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of...
in the revitalization of that neighborhood. And now I think what you were getting at is maybe that neighborhood's not outgrown them, but grown in a different direction. Maybe
It's sprawled up Milwaukee Avenue as just culture. I'm putting that in quotation marks. Has sprawled up the blue line and just up that corridor. But you're also struggling with running 3 different businesses out of the same space, right? You have the brew pub element to it, which requires the whims of production when it comes to the beers, and I think it was a 10-barrel system, maybe 15. I can't remember. But keeping that fresh and interesting when then you have, you're really trying to generate foot traffic for people to get in there. Then you have the food element to it, which running a restaurant sucks. It's low margin, it's, high turnover, and you have to do menu refreshes occasionally and all that kind of stuff.
Staffing is difficult.
Staffing, yeah, for sure, labor. And then also you have the PDR element, or the private dining reservations upstairs. And I mean, I had my wedding there.
Right.
Ages ago. And that in and of itself becomes its own business. And so then you're sort of running on all 3. And while they sort of run in tandem, you can't have the same staff doing all of it. So then your labor just, increases to kind of have that happen. When you then lose a lot of your foot traffic and your destination traffic because no one can find parking in that space anymore because of bike lanes and all that. And I'm all for the bike lanes, but it absolutely changes the dynamic and your ability to have, people who may be from out of town that are going to want to visit. They're probably going to the production facility at
Right.
that point because it's easier parking and so on. And it's just a lot of challenges. It's not for...
Yeah. And, it is a lot to do, and, cash flow solves all problems, and obviously the cash flow wasn't there enough to solve the problem, and even if it was, I don't know if it was marginally profitable or break even or marginally unprofitable to the overall business. I think it was just not worth whatever they were getting from it, and I would imagine that it was kind of a long time coming that they didn't want to, but eventually it was just listen, this doesn't make sense anymore. So I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for them to make.
I mean, we're only a mile up from them, less
Wow.
than that.
Wow,
We're
really?
super close.
It seems so far away.
One stop away. They're on the California stop on the Blue Line, and we're on the Logan stop. And people ask us all the time, do you ever think about doing food? Hell no.
Right.
Absolutely
It's terrifying.
No.
Adding
I
food
love
is a
food.
bad
Can't wait
idea.
for our kitchen to get
I
back
love
open,
food.
by the way.
But we
Yeah.
can run our tap room with 4 people.
Right.
Right.
How
Yeah.
many people did they have?
Yeah, we
Right.
don't.
You know? It's nuts. You have food now.
Yeah, you do.
And every single
we
person
don't,
you
but-
asked was like, "Don't do it."
Yep.
But it has changed.
Yeah.
For our business, we're not seeing the same tap room volume that we did in 2019
Yeah.
at all. And I imagine the same is true across the board.
Right.
I imagine the same is true across the board at Rev, at other tap rooms, at other restaurants. We're just not lapping 2019. People are consuming beer differently. People are going out differently. People are not going out as late. And that particular stretch of Milwaukee is totally different.
And when you see that, it's one thing to be like, well, the one bartender we have, there's only one person in here. Like, that could cover the cost of your
Totally.
one bartender. It doesn't cover the cost of your 4 servers, your
No.
3 chefs, your
Yep.
2
The prep cooker.
bartenders,
Right.
There you go.
which you
Yeah,
need,
yeah.
which you need to have in
Right.
case that you were to be busy.
Right.
And it's probably a headache that they don't need to deal with. Also, I think I think pretty sure they own the building.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at like the financial aspects of like running this larger business,
Do they? They own the building?
I'm pretty sure they own the building. And so like when you look at the
they
larger
were renting
financial
something,
aspects
maybe
of
not.
it, it's like, is it really responsible for us to run this like lost leader brew pub, to have this like thing that everyone in Chicago like claims to love but clearly hasn't been to enough? Or can we do something more valuable with this business asset that we have? Either be, rent it to something else or sell it or something like that.
Right.
But
There was also massive capital investment into the Kedzie production facility too, which also alters cash flow and allows, if you're blending margins, it makes it a little more difficult when
Right.
margin goes up in one or goes down in one place and doesn't change in the other or whatever.
and like there's still just like people running it, right? So like they could just be like the headache of it. There's like it's not worth, even if we're baking even or making some money here. It's like
What for?
it's
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
constantly having to restaff. We're constantly having to like fix plug holes. It's also like old,
Yep,
like
depreciation
it was
issues,
It was
yeah.
an old system when they got it too. Like I brewed there with them, and they're like they had kind of fired it up for the first couple times, and like they were trying to refigure out like, oh yeah, the boiler's a little undersized. We had to do all these tricks and tips to get to work, and kind of like, who wants to do that when you're also making like 60,000 barrels of beer up the
Right.
street? Like I do it because it's my only place. Like our boiler is a little undersized, but like I understand it's like the grind of having to do that, and the value of it is, it's hard to like be like, no, you got to keep this institution alive. It's like, nah, you don't. It's a lot of work.
Yep. Brew pubs are tough. What
Very
else is on the
minimal
agenda?
reward. Also, goings. Molson Coors shutting down Leinenkugels Chippewa Falls Brewery to move
Yeah,
production to
man.
Milwaukee.
Also kind of a bummer.
Very much like Rolling Rock vibes, but a little different because they let it
Well,
go on for a little longer.
Long
but
time, yeah.
It's a big facility that I think was a big part of Chippewa Falls' economy. So
Oh, yeah.
that can't,
They're just totally mothballing it.
yeah, they're moving all production to Milwaukee. They're rolling another, like their 10th Street brewery into another, like one of their Milwaukee production facilities.
How many employees?
I don't know. I don't know if the article said, to be honest.
I was paywalled, so.
Yeah.
Yes, democracy dies in
I'm
darkness.
I'm
You
no longer
cannot read
logged
this
in,
article.
so it is still paywalled when I just clicked on it. But yeah, I'm not sure how many employees exactly, but a significant number.
Yeah.
a
there you go.
non-insignificant
Non-insignificant.
number.
Yeah, I corrected myself. Yeah, just like that's kind of like an institution too. Like that's one of those like quote unquote craft beers that I think crosses over. Like I have a cousin who lives on the south side, and he's like, if I'm really feeling fancy, I drink a summer shandy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my parents love it.
Yeah.
A guy bought one today when he came in to use the bathroom. He's like, "Can I use your bathroom?" Like, gotta buy something. And so he bought a can of summer shandy.
To take with him.
I don't know what he did with it.
Yeah.
Not my problem once he leaves.
All right. Yeah, so sad for the Chippewa Falls community. And then just like as we've talked about on the show, like the medium size kind of roll ups or brands buying brands. Lord Hobo is merging with Lone Pine, which I don't know what Lone Pine is.
I don't know what
but-
Lone Pine is.
I don't know
either.
either.
New England?
Yeah, I think it's all in like
Yeah,
New England stuff, but it's like
yeah.
one of those things of like we have this production facility.
Lord
you have
Hobo
a-
was
you have
kind
a
of
brand.
distressed in multiple ways.
Did
right?
Yeah.
you look up that
Yeah.
VC company who bought them? They have like they have like foam, like
The foam brewers?
no.
Oh.
Like the
Oh, like
VC,
the company has,
the
like-
VC that owns both of these now is in unrelated.
Like
industry.
literally owns
Like
foam.
foam.
Like just like
Like-
padding.
Yeah.
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 That'll be
Yeah.
good for the next. Koozies.
Yeah.
Private equity
coolers.
is evil.
Tight
it's
koozies,
Yeah.
amazing koozies.
Absolutely.
it's never
Good
good,
insulation.
especially in these fields. But I Back Pocket Brewing, which is an Iowa brewery, which I've actually been to a couple of times. Buying Ace Tree Brewing. It's just like these roll ups of like brands that are like.
Yeah.
Ace Tree apparently was the first like female owned brewery in Iowa, and then but they didn't want rolled it up, and the brand still exists as you've talked about, but a smaller brewery, not like a big brewery, bought it up, and then like Goat Patch Brewing, like just the more of the same thing.
And these
Goat
are all,
Patch,
like,
Pikes
all, like,
Peak, like
13 to 15 years old. You know, they've been
What-
around.
yeah,
you know,
barrel
which,
size, or
I
what's
don't know
their
what their
barrel
barrel.
output?
I don't know what their
it
barrel
didn't
output is
say.
though. But they all. I was looking at these, and I saw the Lord Hobo one earlier, and they're at an interesting like age, right?
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you do when you're a 15-year-old brewery?
Right, and like your projections to be like a 60,000 barrel a year brewery didn't
Right,
really work
right,
out,
right.
and now you.
You know
What
if
do
you're
you
15,000 barrels, which is good volume,
Right.
but like
But only
Yeah.
if you meant to be.
Yeah,
Right. If you
right,
meant to be a
right,
60,000
right,
barrel a year
totally.
brewery, then 15,000 is
right.
death.
If you've invested,
Right.
Yeah,
It makes
yeah.
me wonder, like, I mean, obviously we're going to see more of these, but it also seems like those that are doing well are thriving, and that tank space would be gold for anybody looking to alt prop or kind of, move the needle in another market if they're out of space in their home market.
Yeah.
Is there anyone growing gangbusters right now?
I wouldn't say gangbusters.
At scale, there are breweries that are growing pretty big. We just don't hear about them because we're so mature. Like Big Grove in Iowa is growing immensely. Like they expanded into Illinois, but we just don't think about or like we don't think about Big Grove because
We're here.
Yeah, we're
Right,
here.
right, right.
Like we have so many beer options. I also talked to my friend Eric, friend of the show, Eric Capron, about like he now
Your boy.
my boy.
Yes, thank
He's out there.
Yeah, he had some very interesting things. He's now a hop.
Yeah, he's a rep for YCH, and he's
Yeah.
like, I go to these places that like I've never heard. He's like, I thought I was very tuned into
We
beer.
did karaoke with him, and
Nice. What did he sing?
well,
Did he sing Slipknot?
He definitely sang
Yeah.
something. New
so
metal.
Like Deftones.
I know he did. No doubt.
Oh, sure.
The day after
Crowd
I
pleaser.
did it.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow, who wore it better?
we can tell who wore it better.
Yeah.
But he's like going to these. He's like, I go to these places now that I've never heard of. I thought I was really tuned into the beer community, but they're making like 70,000 barrels a year, and they're in Norman, Oklahoma, or something like that's. I don't know if that's actually one of
Yeah,
them, but
yeah.
they're crushing it, and they're growing, and maybe they're not growing double digits or anything. But he's like, Chicago is so hard and so different than a lot of the places that he's covering.
Yeah, he
now.
says he comes back here and it's depressing.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh, it's so hard.
I mean, Hopewell is growing, but I think we're a little
Yeah.
different case because
Sure.
we just signed on with a distributor last year.
Yeah.
It's like we
Yes, you
gotta
did.
grow.
Right.
We gotta grow
Yeah.
if we're signing on with the distributor. So I think that's for us the growth. It's like, well, we gotta or else
Right.
kaput.
Yeah.
you
I mean-
Right.
which is different.
Right.
Which is a different case than I think.
Right.
We wouldn't see it otherwise. We weren't seeing it as
But
self-distro.
there's no like really obvious meteoric
Athletic,
growth.
baby.
Right, except for athletic.
athletic
We'll get to
sales
them.
watch.
Yeah.
We'll get to them later. Well, no, let's just parlay it right now into the athletic sales watch. Then we have to come back to the Cummings.
This is more just my editorial, but I wrote down CEO interviewed on grind set fetishizing / private equity propaganda / entrepreneur podcast. How I built this.
All you need to say. That's beautiful.
That's perfect.
That's
That's-
poetry.
Yeah.
So what is the bet? The bet was by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to win the bet, I think.
like signed, sealed,
Wait,
delivered.
what was your
it.
bet?
By the end of this year, they would like completely sell.
We're betting on when we have a sale watch. When are they going to buy?
Okay.
either
sell?
go public or be like acquired
Yeah.
wholesale, like wholly.
I don't
But
think they're
this-
going to go public. I'm just all on this sale. They're built to sell, baby.
Sure. I mean, but what does that mean? Because there's clearly so much private equity money in it at this point.
Right.
So sell to what? To another private equity firm?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a whole private equity firm rolls up.
The Yale
Tom
guys are gonna
Brady's
sell to the Harvard
shares, Dr. Pepper's shares.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like this is one of those podcasts where people are only on it right before or right after they get acquired by private equity or private equity is trying to sell them. That's never like the texts of the show. It's always
This podcast right here that
this
we're
one.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
this
three of us.
Yeah.
No, the how I
right,
built
right.
this.
Okay.
No one ever talks about how private equity has like ruined their enjoyment of their business or anything,
Yeah.
which is clear when they like. But so it's very there's. I'm guessing there's something happening.
So maybe you are gonna. Maybe you're gonna.
I
you're
think
gonna
I'm-
make your horizon.
Nah, I don't. No, there's no chance. I mean, it's so we're so close to the end of the year. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but
You can hope.
Yeah,
You can hope. You know,
Guy Raz, do it for me, bud. Get it
November
out there.
November surprise.
Trick the other private equity idiots into thinking it is actually a business they should be getting into.
Okay.
Anyway,
Cummings.
Suncatcher.
Yeah. Hey. First time we've had a exciting Cumming.
I mean, since his
It was.
Come on, dude.
Well, that was a tap room.
That wasn't exciting, but
No, that was a tap room. This was a new brewery.
an entirely new brewery.
Yeah, they
Fair,
sent.
fair.
They've been sort of teasing this for a while, and
Yes.
they brewed that batch at Hill Farmstead
Yeah.
a while ago.
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah, you got it. We got it. I can't remember who else did, but it was cool. It was nice to see like a 3% brown ale and like a red ale that was just
Talk about beer flavored beer.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And it's industry pros.
industry pros in a very small space where it's like it's a very different vibe than when we're like, we can max this place out. We can get to like 15,000 barrels. Like he's like, nope, this is what we're going to do in here. We're basically going to try to sell the beer here. We might sell some kegs to people, but there's like no room there's no cold storage. Like it's all out of serving tanks, like those European like
Yep.
bladder tanks, which are very cool.
Yeah. Like the like Pilsner Kell tank things that have like their big like sideways.
Yeah, they're like horizontal tanks that you put a bladder into. And
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can
That's
like
great.
push them
I've had-
in
I love
compressed
the
air or something.
specificity,
Yeah.
like of was like your tap room, and in this tap room, like it feels like that if you're opening up a tap room in 2024, this feels fresh and exciting but nostalgic. you
Sure.
know?
Oh,
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot less like just opening
Adam
a
just
brewery
killed
because you can. No, he's fine. Opening a brewery because you can open a brewery
Yeah.
and like it's hip. Like if you're opening a brewery now, or you're opening a tap room now, or you're trying to like aggressively expand your brewery into some other form than it was, like we did. It's because you have a specific idea of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and it's really cool to watch people do things that like, 8 years ago would have been like, why would you do that, dude? Like you should be trying to do this. And
Yeah.
like,
Where are your TVs?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh my
It's also fun to have like
the Bears
just
game?
to want to do small things again.
Yeah, totally. Right.
And for it to not to be silly.
Well,
which it might still be silly.
Yeah, it's like
but
small but not precious,
Sure.
which I
Right.
think is important.
Yeah.
In beer, in craft beer,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it feels like accessible and not precious.
It's
I think that's the wrong word.
neighborhoody
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is really cool. And I mean, and I'm going to do a big shout out here because like, Matt and Raj are getting all the accolades for this, but they grabbed Sarah, and Sarah was, Half Acre, and she was back at Goose Clybourne too. She's been around the block forever, and she's
But some
just
Half Acre guys. It's Half Acre
It's like all,
owned.
it's all ex half.
Yeah, it's basically all
It's Half Acre owned, I believe. Like,
no, it's Matt.
It's technically not. There are some crossover, like
In
employee
partnership?
crossover ownership, but it's not like that.
It's a separate
Not like
thing.
Half Acre LLC owns Suncatcher LLC.
There's not a holding company.
Right. This is Matt and Raj
not
doing
as
a
far
thing.
as I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt and Raj doing a thing that they wanted to do, and Raj was employee number 2 or 3 at Half
Right.
Acre back in the day, and again, Sarah was there running the tap room and all that kind of stuff, and that idea of nostalgia is kind of cool for those of us that have been around for a long time. It's kind of cool to see the dream team get back together in a way, I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and there's certainly some sense of nostalgia in the like the idea that they're like, we're gonna make relatively low ABV stout brown ale,
Red ale.
brew pub style beers, but the beers themselves weren't like drinking old beers. They weren't like drinking nostalgic beers necessarily. It was like, these are beers of our time. They just happen to be these, I don't know, like approachable, but they're just like less strivey beers, less like hip, but still very much of
Vibrant, fresh,
yeah,
cool experience.
of the time. But
I haven't seen the space
you
yet.
went, right, Chris?
Yeah,
I haven't been
cool
yet.
spot. Man, it's crazy.
Can you bring your
What
kid?
kind of a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah? There's a little outdoor space
Right.
too.
Yeah,
for
there's
kids
a
to
huge
kinda
outdoor
run
space.
around it. Yeah, it's true.
It's like
Big
twice
outdoor
as big as the actual like,
It's true.
brewery.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
That is. It's a big outdoor space.
When I was there,
No, but there's no kitchen.
No kitchen.
There's
Awesome.
no distribution. There's no anything. It's just like but it's not like a brew pub. What do you call that?
It's like
It's a
brew
brewery.
pub, but getting rid of but
there's no distribution
There's something
at
on here
all.
where it says like old fashioned no distro tap room, but I don't know if that's really a thing.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying.
it's-
Yeah, so maybe it isn't old. That's
It's
what I
like
was saying.
it's
What-
like
what
this
do you call
nostalgic
that?
thing of it's like a brew pub, probably a
Without the
80s
pub.
and a 90s to 2000s brew pub vibe without the food.
Without the food.
Without the food element of it, which
Tap
as we were
room.
just talked about.
It's like a
Tap
brew
room.
bar.
yeah, but it is like kind of a new thing in Chicago.
There's
to be
other
like,
tap
we're
rooms
not-
Does it
that don't
have like
have
a
food.
bar?
It has a bar,
vibe?
yeah, yeah.
Like a bar vibe, though.
I don't know.
in one part
No.
of it.
I think
Would you
tap
go
room
at
suffices.
9 p.m.?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
you could.
you could. I think it's more of like a earlier vibe,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But you could definitely go at 9 p.m. and still be like, this is a bar in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
The bar itself is very cool, just aesthetically beautiful.
Old like Art Deco.
Are they
Yeah.
open
Nice.
on Wednesdays?
They are. They're only closed on Tuesdays, I think.
Cool.
But yeah, like what other?
I'll report
What
back.
other brewery is? Well, I already answered my question in my head. But what other brewery is no food and no
distro.
distribution?
Yeah.
One I can think of is Treehouse. They might have food now, but
Yeah.
I know Treehouse was like that. A little bit different. But I can't. I can't
can't.
think of another.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I mean, to be like that's
Which I had
to
never.
pull the-
I hadn't really thought about.
You
that.
can be a brewery tap room without distro. I guess that's
Obviously
the
you
thing that
can.
right. That's the thing that I'm sort of like stuck on. It's like it's a tap room.
But who else has done it?
yeah, this is
In
kind of
Chicago.
Anywhere.
Because a lot of states that require some food,
Sure.
you know?
I mean, I went to some random barn in like Blue Hill, Maine. That was a small like 10-barrel brewery in an old barn house. And
there was
they
a
didn't-
restaurant there, wasn't there?
It was, but it was next door, and it was not. It was completely separate.
Got it.
Yeah. So that
I know what you're
that
talking about.
counts. I'm trying to think. There was one in Cape May, I think, New Jersey.
Maybe we'd be a
Okay.
little bit
Cape
real
May
that like,
Brewing.
this is
Trying
kind
to
of a
remember,
thing
there's
that.
a brewery
Yeah.
that opened
Not
in,
many of them, apparently.
Well, it's probably a thing
Maine.
you would only really open when you have some sort of other financial interest in
Yeah.
something, right? Where like,
Or you think you have
where
to.
you open something where there's literally almost no ability to grow. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's hard to plan that.
yeah. If you don't have some sort of other like,
Right.
I think there is some. I could be wrong, but I think there's some enough of a financial stake where distribution is somewhat like their paths to distribution are somewhat locked in already. Which like I don't think they can't self distribute. Like they couldn't just be like, yeah, we're just going to get a self distro license. We're not really planning to, but you know, for a special event, we can kick you a keg or something. They're like, no, we can't.
Oh.
Is that well?
I
That might be
think-
based on the license.
Now, this
Got
could
that.
also be all BS just coming out of my mouth, but I was talking to Gallagher, one of the owners of it, and I had talked to him about it before, and this is kind of it was like,
that's a choice though.
Yeah.
Like, that's a choice of how you license it.
okay,
That they didn't get that license.
okay,
They probably. I don't even know what that would be though.
sure.
I hope they're
well, we'll
listening.
see.
Maybe he just
We
doesn't
can
want to
figure it
file
out.
the paperwork when he actually does it. That's a very real thing.
Right.
I
It
don't have
could
to
be.
do this paperwork.
Could be.
I'll have to get him on and grill him about the corporate executive and licensing structure of his business.
Are
That
you
seems
an
like
LLC?
something-
Are
that
you
seems
an
like something.
S-corp?
He would definitely want
Last
to
time he
talk
was
about
on, he seemed ready to dive right into that.
it. Exactly. That's what he's really into.
He bought a piece of art here last time he was here. Yeah. There's some art on the wall, and he just bought it.
That's sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the tap room.
Yeah. Oh, it's because it was at his house.
His house, yes, right? In his bedroom, probably.
Yes. Do we want to talk about Mr. Mr. Bart Watson, the Swami of the VA, has had to say, or do we want to talk about craft beer and brewing's best in the universe list?
That one could be real quick. There's a lot of Chicago breweries and Illinois breweries on it. We showed up well. Goldfinger, Triptych, Hot Butcher, Solemn Oath, Dovetail, Revolution, Half Acre, Distill, which
Someone's
actually
super happy. They're honking their horns for you,
a
baby.
mid-sized regional brewer that was one ahead of Fatheads. Was made it on the Saison list, off color there.
Congratulations.
Afterthought. And then Chicago was the that magazine's 5th favorite beer city, which actually was down from number 1 last year.
Oh, what's number 1?
I don't remember.
It's sort of odd to
Doesn't
have that
matter.
many breweries on there and be like, 5.
5. There's also something weird going on with like Nebraska tourism is very much leaning into beer tourism right now because they were all over these lists. But then also some podcasts I listened to, there was specifically like whether you like a hazy IPA or a bourbon barrel aged stout or like a fruited kettle sour, we have it all for you in Omaha. It was very like I'm like this is like an AI generated ad just for me, and I'm like, do I want to go to Omaha?
Oh, for some reason.
I think I do.
Yeah. But also, Hopewell, 5th best beer bar in the world. Beer Temple, 6th best beer bar in the world. And then Orange and Brew, 8th best beer bar in the world.
Wow,
So, like,
we're all
Chicago
coming up.
is showing
Look
up.
at that.
You know what I think is awesome, and truly, finally, accurately depicts reality, is that all the best beer bars in the world
Or in America.
are in America.
Yeah, maybe it's-
according to this list.
Yeah, maybe it's just America. I don't know.
No, it's in the world.
Oh, it is.
I have it right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best beer bars around the world.
There's not a single one else. I didn't look.
Not
at
a
it.
single.
I just edited, find it,
Not a single one. It was Toronado, The Whale, Monk's Cafe, the Brick Store Pub in Atlanta, never been there. Hop Leaf, Beer Temple, Casual Pint, never been there. That's various. Some of them their location is called various.
You have a few locations.
Orange and Brew, the Beer Mongers in Portland. I haven't been there, Portland, Oregon.
I've been there.
You have been there? I don't think I have. A
like a
beer
slashy.
club in Eugene, Oregon. Yard House, Blind Lady Ale House in San Diego. I must. Oh yeah,
You
I've
kicked out of there.
I think I got kicked out of there. Salute Beer Shop in Charlotte, Belmont Station in Portland. I've
Have
definitely been there. Nova Res in Portland, Maine.
I've been there,
That
too,
place is
yeah.
cool.
Good party.
Finn's Manor in Denver, been there. Romero's Canine Club in Lafayette, Colorado.
The dog
The
bar.
Silver Stamp in Vegas. El Bait Shop in Des Moines. And the Glendale Tap in California. And
In
I can
Glendale.
say, congrats to everyone on that list. I've been to, I don't know. If I came up with a list, there'd maybe be a few that would be on this list.
I've been to at least 3 of them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Same.
that's true.
I used to go to Belmont Station all
Yeah,
the
Belmont
time.
Station's a good place. I mean, is it one of the best in the world? I don't
Maybe
know,
one of the
man. There's
Yard
a lot of
Houses is
good.
the-
There's a lot of good beer bars in the world,
Right.
man.
This is all just fan vote popularity contest. So, like,
Is it fan vote?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, none in Belgium, none in Germany, none in England, none in Ireland.
Sounds about right.
Ooh,
Yeah,
beer
right.
sucks there.
Yeah. Beer's lame.
Right?
Guinness did win favorite stout brewer, though.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but
the
we're-
Maryland or
you
Chicago
can only get
facility.
it at lame bars.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I mean it's cool. It's awesome. I'm just being nitpicky. It's just to
Yeah, it's
say
fun.
in America.
It's fun. It seems like Chicago breweries were very well represented.
Yeah, man.
Congratulations to everyone for
Yes.
your meaningless recognition.
That's cool. I haven't even mentioned it. I sent it to my dad, and I and you know what I did? I clipped it from. I saw it on the Hop Leafs Instagram. I was like, oh, screen cap,
Edit.
screen cap,
Save
crop.
post.
Hey, Dad, check this out.
That's why you're 6 instead of 5, because you're just screen capping it.
Yeah. And then I didn't put it on my own.
You know who does appreciate
Instagram.
stuff like this is the SBA. They really appreciate me being like, hey, we were 20, then we moved to 15.
Oh,
And they're
if I was looking for
they're like
money,
they're like,
I
on
would
what?
100%.
Craft Beer and Brewing magazine. And they're like, whoa.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you go deeply in debt.
We're the best podcast for the North American Guild of Beer Writers. The best one
The best one.
ever
Yeah.
of that year.
Yeah, that year.
in the world.
Every time
the
we,
universe. I like to say the universe.
I mean, find a
least the
better
galaxy.
podcasting universe.
At least the galaxy.
Joe Rogan's looking for another podcast in another galaxy.
It's not a beer podcast.
Definitely not.
You know what? In outer space, where it takes like 6 years for light and for sound to get there, we're currently the best beer podcast.
That's at that place.
At that
That's
place.
the best one they got out there.
It's all relative, man.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
they're
Einstein.
listening to it right now. We are the best right now to them.
To someone somewhere.
Yeah, so it all depends on where you are. It's relative. So right now, we are the best. Not here on Earth,
Right. Somewhere, though.
but somewhere.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's why you can say, if you win, don't say what year. Just say you're the best.
Yeah, just leave the
Then mic drop.
JBF medal on your 6-pack holder for
Forever.
35 years.
I mean, I'm down. I mean, Boris the Crusher or whatever,
Hey,
Hoppin' Frog,
hey.
go for it.
Watch your mouth.
Exactly. Hey, I'm a fan. Do it. Do it, I say. Okay. What did, do you want to talk about Craft Beer Temple? Oh, Craft Beer Temple.
Yes, always,
Craft
Chris.
beer
Of
declines.
course, whatever you need.
No, I was talking about that because I'm having a
Aneurysm.
a website, an aneurysm, and they called me Craft Beer Temple, and I was like, that's not what we're called. Anyway, do you want to talk about declines? Decline. Do you want to talk about
Slower
Bart
declines,
Watson?
though.
Decline.
Or do we
declining.
want to go right into letters? Come on. What do you want? What do you want to do?
Let's just do the letters.
Letters.
to be
I think
honest, because, those other two are behind paywalls. So if I check on them, I'm not going to be able to read
You know
the
how
whole
to
thing.
unravel paywalls, right?
We have a
subscription.
login, but
yeah, we have a subscription to those for Brewbound.
I got logged out of it after making the rundown, and so now I can't click on it and refresh myself. And anyway, sausage doesn't need to get made this way. However, it does. So let's talk about letters because I can look at those.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to talk about
No, let's go.
slowing
let's go to
declines
letters.
in craft beer sales or Bart Watson.
We can talk about it anecdotally if we want, without any actual data.
Let's just do letters.
Okay, we'll do letters. So if you want to send a letter, these are both electronic letters.
Your first time on the show, huh?
Yeah.
This is great.
This is pretty
Really,
standard.
really good.
I wonder why we
This
didn't
has
win
been
that award.
generally more
Professional.
on topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Samantha had the same, this is really great, that the guy from The Price is Right told me when I won and was the worst contestant ever.
Wait, you
and
won
he
The
was
Price is
like,
Right?
Well, we'll get to that later. And he was
Yes,
like,
he did.
he was like, what a great guest, everyone. What a great contestant, everyone. Because I was just like, yay, I won.
You're like, now I got to go on this trip.
Right. Ugh, I've been like Hawaii.
Is this a bit?
No, I did really win. And he had been
It wasn't
everyone
on
was
TV.
great. And he was like, I was such a bad contestant. I think we've talked
have
about it on the
talked
show.
about it.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah,
let's
don't-
move on. We'll talk about it afterwards.
He did.
Yes, it's true. And I was a terrible guest. And he said I was a
I'm
great
shook.
contestant. And it reminded me of that when Samantha was like, "This is great.
This is great. You're
This is
doing
great.
great.
You guys
So
are doing
good.
great. I'm so happy I'm here.
What a good use of my Tuesday.
So letters, we take physical letters and we read those, and we also take electronic letters. That those are sent electronically to our electronic mailbox, and our electronic mailbox address is insiders@craftbeertemple.com, which is why they think we're the Craft Beer Temple, as I was getting to before, and we have a few. And they're both inspired by the Insider for a Day that Connor came on for.
The 21-year-old,
Yes. The underage drinker.
Getting younger.
the 18-year-old. He's like, I know a way that I can drink craft beer
Hey.
if I'm only
You're not
18.
gonna card me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he had to get driven here because he's like 15.
Right. Yeah. But hey, he won the auction.
Sorry, Connor.
No, it's okay. Connor was
You're an adult.
yeah, he was great, and he had some really good content. For
He
the
did.
show,
He was great.
which inspired a couple letters.
Oh, nice.
Right?
So here's the first one. This comes from Doug von Weisen. Remember, sign your letters however you want to be referred to. We're not just going to give out your name if you don't want it, but Mr. von Weisen wanted to be called that. So he wrote, Dear Insiders, Connor's episode made me think of a fun question for the roundtable. What's your sliding doors moment in beer? A sliding doors moment is an event where if things had happened differently, a lot would change. My sliding doors moment is, what if Deschutes built a second brewery in Roanoke, Virginia in 2016 with other breweries like Stone never opening an East Coast location?
This is a real thing that could have happened.
My sliding doors moment is, what if Deschutes built a second brewery in Roanoke, Virginia in 2016 with other breweries like Stone never opening an East Coast location? Okay. In this fantasy world, Deschutes would be a top 10 independent brewer with national acclaim and popularity. I'm excited to hear what events the panelists and Serge have to offer.
That's you.
Warm
Chris.
regards, Doug Von Weisen. He didn't know that
He
at
didn't
the
know
time. That I am the Fade Master.
That's right.
But sometimes I just pretend to screw it up.
A sliding doors moment.
I've got a big one for me.
Go.
Tony McGee never sells.
He never puts his thumbs through his eyes and never
Yeah,
sells.
he never sells Lagunitas.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what started the whole rat race of like
Yeah.
expand. Private equity, because we need to expand.
No, it was happening before that.
That was
That was
But
just
that,
like,
that was the first $1 billion valuation, yeah?
I
I
think.
think so.
I think
It was
so.
before
I
that.
think-
I mean, Goose was
so.
before them.
Well, the desire to grow and expand like that certainly was happening before them.
And they were the rocket ship that was at the
everyone
top.
thinking they could do it is that got like everyone where it's like they were they weren't born to do that, but they eventually built themselves to do that. Whereas a bunch of other breweries were like, we make better beer than them. We could sell for like not even, maybe 100
$2
million,
billion.
maybe 100 million.
Well, and then Ballast
Right.
Point.
Right, and then Ballast
Right.
Point that one was
They won.
crazier.
They're the ones who won.
they
won the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then they did the same thing with Cutwater.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're the best. And now I follow Yusuf on Instagram, or have for a while.
What's he doing? Just like
Just
playing
sport
golf,
fishes.
sport fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then travels
Tight.
That's
all
so
over the
funny.
world.
I sort of
Just
take
catching like
Catching the
sculpins,
sculpins
Yeah.
and the fish on his labels.
I sort of
For
take
real.
umbrage with the idea that Lagunitas was built to sell.
No,
Because
I didn't say they were built to sell. They weren't born to sell, but at some point they chose that we're trying to sell.
I don't think that's true either.
There were Harvard MBAs on their payroll. Come on, dude. Like,
It was
I mean, I
just,
don't know
it was
about
weird to be there, multiple years going out there and knowing these people personally in the way that I did.
Sucker.
It totally it honestly caught me off guard. And you might be right, and I might have just been snowed, but like I kept thinking that they were expanding in spite of themselves in some cases. Like I very much remember being there at the brewery in Petaluma when that the brew kettle or wort receiver or whatever it was that got bashed up on the in a hurricane on a boat on the
ship,
way over. Yeah, and they were all just like, "That is awesome. We're just going to keep it as art. It's going to be the most expensive art we have." And they weren't kidding. They were just pissing money away in that way because they were making enough of it that they didn't really consider. And I think it's entirely possible that maybe some of the investor track folks were like, "Hey, you're sitting on a golden, egg here." But I don't think that's how it was gonna go down in Tony's head.
Well, that's my sliding door moment. Is Lagunitas never sells? Like, where would we be right now? I think it could be wildly. It could be exactly the same, except they bought somebody different. But it could be so much different. In my fantasy world, it's different, and the it's so much more fractured, and there's still a lot of growing and fighting and stuff like that. But there's a lot more independence of the big guys. I think a lot of them, their hands kind of got forced because they took on private money, that Horizon and stuff like that. I think maybe Dogfish Head is still independent.
kind of. I mean,
It in this world.
oh, in this world.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
I think a lot of them were on the private equity treadmill well before any of us were aware of it. The way that he talked
None of
about
it's public, yeah.
right, and then the way that he talked about these like zombie breweries and his familiarity with private equity and what it could do to breweries. Obviously we don't know, but my intuition was it wasn't telling me then, but now is looking back on it, it's like, oh, it's because he was on the treadmill.
Oh yeah,
And so like
I think so. I think definitely for that.
that only ends in so many ways, right?
Sure.
They sell you to a bigger company, or they bankrupt you and and loot it.
Right. So
at least that didn't
sliding
happen.
Door,
That's
sliding
another
door
sliding door
moment.
possibility.
That's mine. That's my
That's a
sliding door
good one.
moment. Anybody else have a sliding door moment that they can think of?
I don't really usually think in these terms.
Yeah,
so
this
I have
is.
to, like-
I was looking at this question before getting here, and I had a lot of trouble.
What if Citra never got named Citra? That's like a genuinely like. What if it got named like
Vic Secret. That was what it was called, Vic Secret.
Yeah, or like or something
Any
like
other, just pick another hop name that is out there.
Right.
Yeah.
If it wasn't called Citra, would it still have would we all be using it like it is? Because there's plenty of hops that are incredibly delicious, right? Mm-hmm. But that one, because of that and the name and all the lore, totally changed the direction of.
Mm-hmm. I still think it would be a huge hop, but I think you're right that it wouldn't have been this like
if Amarillo had a cooler name,
right.
it could have been the Amarillo. But it was Citra at the right time, right place, right name, because it conveyed enough of what people wanted from it, like this orange marmalade or like juicy thing. But it wasn't just called like citrus bomb or lemon drop. Like people tried to recreate what Citra was. If Citra just didn't get named that.
I've got another one. I'll just keep saying, you guys can jump in if you guys have one. What if Heady Topper had been put out in bottles? What would that whole can thing have exploded the same way? I mean, that was kind of the start of it. Those New England ones, starting with Heady Topper in a can. It was really Surly.
Dale's Pale Ale is
and Surly.
With you right
Surly
there.
as well. Surly was in cans, and Surly was in 16-ounce cans.
Yeah.
But Heady really was the one that kind of was the first. I mean, it became the number one beer on Beer Advocate in the world, and it was in a can. Because it was in a can, exactly.
No, it's because you couldn't get it.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
I mean, yeah. But it was in a can, and it made... I mean, there was a time where Sam Adams was having printed cans to look like they were stickered cans. So, a lot of that was because of the kind of Heady Topper, New England, hazy can craze.
Everyone was following the ball.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I mean, a lot of people were
Soccer.
canning before it was
circle.
good for their beer to do so. Their beer probably would have held up better in bottles, but they were still canning because it would sell faster because the can was cool. I don't know. That's just a...
And then bottling lines would be cheaper.
Right.
Okay, because we've been talking about glass. Mm-hmm. Glass coming back. I hope.
Are you going to get a Mahine? What are the options
Fuck
now?
no. Right, exactly.
But you know how cheap a Mahine is, though?
Right, nothing.
Free,
right.
Just
exactly.
go pick it up
Right.
from someone.
Because the way that part of the industry is developed, there has not been innovation in glass, but in canning, there's options now for a small size brewery. You can buy something that makes sense, but not for bottling.
You can do 12-ounce bottles, bombers. What are you bringing back?
Yeah, we're going solely bombers.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Big buddy.
Big buddy.
New beer every week.
So I was in
Bombers.
Portland 3 years ago at a high-end grocery store called Providor.
Okay.
Great place. They are the only place I've seen shelves of bombers. Still.
Yeah, it's a time machine.
Wild.
That and
right?
Bend, Oregon are
Yeah.
time machines.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's like
I've got
a whole
one.
pipe work
Interesting.
shelf.
Right.
I thought of one.
Okay, what's your sliding door moment?
I wonder what would happen if Bear Republic hadn't pulled their distro out of the Midwest when they started running out of water back in 2014, 2013, I think it was. Because that Racer 5 IPA was, one of the best-selling beers that we had at Sam's and at Vinny's, and it crushed in a time where Dogfish couldn't keep 60 Minute on the shelf to save their lives, and Half Acre kept running out of Daisy Cutter because they insisted on brewing other things at the same time that everyone was asking them to make that. And Rev hadn't really taken hold yet, and Bell's was still sort of reeling from just coming back into the market, and Two Hearted was doing well, but hadn't really gone ubiquitous and scaled in the way that it is now. There certainly weren't 12-pack cans of it. And Lagunitas was able to kind of take a lot of that market share. I think that was there for the 6-pack, $9.99, $8.99 IPA from California, from Northern California. That was a huge bummer, I think, for the old schoolers at the time. But in sitting here, kind of rolling this question over in my head, it does make me wonder what the landscape of California IPA would look like at the time had they been able to stay in the market as long as for much longer than they did. They also pulled out of, I think, like 4 other markets at the same time too, which really, scaled their own market penetration back.
And kind of inverse one of that. What if not Lagunitas? What if New Glarus had never pulled out of Chicago? So one scaling back kind of was the detriment of that brewery, but them scaling back and only into Wisconsin. Like, what if they had actually what if their strategy had stayed to be like try to be in Chicago, try to expand to other? Would they be this juggernaut of Wisconsin beer that they are?
Probably not.
No, I don't
Yeah,
They'd certainly be so different.
yeah. And could a brewery like New Glarus exist in any other state?
There's such an anomaly, and Wisconsin is such a weird state.
They drink so much beer.
They drink so much.
They do, and they're such homers about it too.
Yeah.
They drink
Yeah.
brandy,
Like
olive,
I was in
old
Wisconsin. My
concoction.
parents just moved there a couple of years ago, and I was somewhere, and people from Wisconsin are talking to a bartender. We're in Wisconsin, so I'll have more. I'm like, you're in Wisconsin. The
They love
bartender
it.
knows you're in Wisconsin too.
You've never left Wisconsin.
Yeah,
You've been here for
I know.
62 years.
Yeah, I can't think of a moment, but I do think a lot about still the pandemic, unfortunately, and I wonder how it accelerated movement and openings and closures, and what would have been different. Like how our businesses would look different, how consumer habits would be different, who would still be open or who would not be open, maybe?
I'll yes and
Yeah.
that and add the Farm Act or the Farm Bill 2018 and say what would have happened if the cannabis loophole hadn't accidentally gotten written into
Yeah,
law
man.
that way.
Well, what's up?
I just found the consumer behavior aspect of that most interesting.
Right.
Like, supposedly we were being told that it accelerated things that were already happening.
Right.
But
Did it?
Did it really?
I
though?
don't know.
Because
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
were people always? Was it inevitable that people would be going out less? And one thing that I was talking to my parents about after the election, and they're like, "Well, hopefully beer sales go up," and our sales went down for a few days, and I had the realization of people do sad things at home now. You used to go and commiserate with people out, but if you're sad, you just stay home and you either smoke weed or you drink it alone at home. You don't communal this is probably something, but shared sadness doesn't. Commiseration is gone.
Bars are TV spaces now.
Yeah.
Roper from Hopleaf was just on social media about this today, talking about how the conviviality and commiseration over a beer with your fellow people around you doesn't really exist in that way, in the same way that it did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to push back a little on that, which is interesting, and it's a very
Which
new...
part? The bars being TV spaces, or that you don't do sad drinking it in public?
Because I do. Because
No,
yes to all.
it's
all my drinking
no,
is sad.
I think it's more so that I agree. We need to get more community in the bar. It needs to be more of a public space, and I've found sometimes that certain things. So we've had so much no TV at all ever, tons and tons and tons and tons. We have a TV. Actually, there's a movie on right now.
Yeah.
Steven just decided to put a movie on. He's lately been on a bend of trying to see what the TV does, and it's had some interesting results. If you just put on a college game or whatever, it doesn't really do much. And we're like, nah, don't do that unless you are personally invested in it.
Or some
and it's
regular is
right. But we've found that if you without a TV, people are now just going to their personal TVs, and we'll have everyone at the bar, even regulars, not talking to each other
On their phones.
And we were at Frank and Mary's down the street, awesome bar, and we were commenting on how the regulars there talk to each other so much more. I think there's some TVs at Frank and Mary's, little ones in the corner, very kind of classic, and we're like, why is that? Why do our regulars just not interact with each other as much? It's independent interactions with the bartender with maybe some crossover. But then there were some times where we were putting on like stupid stuff, and the one that pops to mind for me was one of our guys just decided on a Sunday to put on ESPN The Ocho, which plays the stupidest sports, like professional rock skipping.
Wait, isn't that a joke from
Dodgeball?
from Dodgeball? That's a real thing now?
Yes.
Wow. Jesus.
Remember, we are in a post-satire world.
Here's my sliding doors moment.
Right.
No, I'm just
I was
So-
a teenager when that came out.
So it has like
Yeah.
whatever. I've never seen that movie, but
That's a joke from that movie that's become.
I'm going to break in because I wonder if it has more to do with the culture that is being inculcated in the bar space itself. In other words, in a place, and I say this lovingly, with beer, where there's beers to revere, maybe the interaction isn't necessarily to commiserate over things or to speak to somebody else about that stuff, but rather it's to check in a beer to Untapped. And I see this at our own space too, at Beer on the Wall, where the regulars absolutely talk to each other, and by and large our TVs are only utilized for menus. And the vibe does change when it's utilized to show a Bears game or English football, or if I try like a weird effed up movies on Tuesdays, which is like a thing that I've also been trying to utilize the space for. But
Yeah.
my issue that I'm trying to drive at, and I'm going to try to not ramble here, is that I think it comes more down to the publican and what and not the place, but like what vibe are you attempting to put out there, and how are you facilitating that conversation? In other words, who behind the bar has the personality to engage with the customers that are walking around and can put on weird music that will spark conversation and continue to spark conversation.
Well,
I mean,
I think I really
Hop
can't.
Leaf is, I think, maybe the greatest beer bar in
It's
the world.
Fifth.
greatest in
Maybe
the world.
like
Universe?
it might be. I mean, it's up there. It's certainly in the argument of
It's my-
upper
yeah.
top tier, right?
It's my favorite maybe.
Okay, so
After
Same.
the beer temple, of course.
sure. So
Craft beer temple.
But what I will say about that place is, regulars aren't just sitting there talking to each other whenever I go there.
Oh, I disagree. I think that's very
Okay.
incorrect. You get your groups that are sit around the
Groups.
the
No,
corner.
no.
Groups.
You get
but
groups. You get groups who come
individuals
together.
go in there like
But solo
Yeah.
folks, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
100%.
Like guys who go like Cheers. Like you have
Yeah.
regulars who come in there. So what I was getting at before was with this thing, the Ocho. There's a German name for it, which Vavrick you may know, but it's like the Stein holding competition.
Steinholding.
Yeah, right. No, it's not that, but it's something like
Steinholden.
that. But like everybody, all of a sudden, was talking about it
Yeah.
and be like, "I got the guy in the fedora." No way, the guy in the blue, and like everyone starts talking to each other. And I just took notice of it because I was like, "Why are you putting this stuff on?" And then I was like, "Wow, people are like
They're responding.
talking to
Yeah.
each other, and the TV is what's doing it." Where if it was, a Bears game, that might do it a little bit. But if it was like, just some like college game, like it's not going to do it at all.
Right.
But if it wasn't on there, it also wouldn't be
Here's the-
doing
yeah,
it,
so-
at least here.
Here's the phenomenon.
It was just an interesting
Yeah.
anecdote.
We did
I
that
can
specifically at the
explain
brewery where
this.
we have a playlist of like visually stunning movies that are
Yeah.
kind of weird, where it's like we use it as like a piece of like a moving framed art. And the idea is like if there's nothing there, then you're just on your phone. If there's sports, then you're just watching sports. And if there's this thing that's like moving, so because you're drawn to it, and then you're like, what is this? You like start like
Yeah.
look at, and then someone inevitably is like, oh, that's Dr. Seuss's only movie, and then you start talking about how weird it is, or Steve Hamburg gives you the entire plot because he knows
He
every
knows all
single
those.
scene of the movie.
And I think if you have two people behind the bar
yeah,
who are engaging,
yeah,
it can also spark conversation. That's
Sure.
what I've noticed
Yeah.
when we have two people working behind the bar, and then there's a solo person sitting, another solo person sitting, and then they start having cross conversation, and it's like tonight's vinyl night at the tap room. They're playing only 70s music.
I'm
It's
gonna-
like there you go.
yeah. But it has like socially, we have changed. We're like, you don't talk to strangers. Like,
I'm going to go out on
we've
a
been
limb.
told since we were children not to talk to strangers. You
Yeah.
know, like so that's somewhere deep in our psyches, right?
I'm going to go out on a limb on this one, and I think the reason, something that we're all sort of hitting around, is a lack of homogeneity, or I guess banality, because I'm going to be a Man, I really wish I could curse. I'm going to be a jerk about it.
Homogeneity
Thank you.
and
Homogeneity. I'm going to be a jerk about it. But one of the things that I like to tell customers, and you are going to have to dump this because I'm going to say this verbatim, but what I usually tell people when they come in and they're like, oh, what a cool space, because I usually have something really weird playing overhead music-wise. I'm like, yeah, where it's a different vibe. We don't do TVs, we do video games. We don't turn the lights off, the lights are on. It's kid-friendly and family-friendly rather than a bar, and it doesn't sound like a fucking Walgreens. And what I mean by that is the same thing you guys are saying, from your sports that you wouldn't normally see to visually inspiring movies that it might be kind of weird and challenging to the customer. We don't really think in terms of that because a lot of the background culture that we're subjected to at grocery stores and at Walgreens and at bars is the same pop songs. It's the same visual movies. It's the same billboards. It's the same pop culture propaganda that's fed to us all the time. So when you give somebody something that takes them out of that. The KLF used to call this culture jamming, but the idea is like you're pulling somebody out of what their normal reality is and giving them an opportunity to think in a way that doesn't turn their brain off. And I'm going to say something nice about craft beer nerds for once, which is that I think they're in general probably smarter in some ways, or at least more open to being stimulated by weird
More curious,
stuff.
maybe.
Or
Higher
curious,
filters,
for sure.
yeah.
Right. There's an intellectual seeking that lends itself well to being challenged by media. And so it could be TV, it could be music, it could be art, it could be any number of conversations of multiple, bartenders that have a conviviality or conversational structure that might not work in a grocery store, but absolutely works in that space where you can cuss or challenge them. I like to say that all the time because you can treat them, if you treat them not like consumers or like just like a dollar, and treat them like a person that might actually, want to hear the Butthole Surfers for the first time in 20 years rather than, Chapel Roan or whatever. That's kind of like, it's an experience that's memorable.
Yeah, and then there's also part of it, you got to meet people where they are with like levels of stimulation we're at now. Like your kid's on 4 screens at a time,
Yeah.
right? And ever more, all of us are kind of like that, right? We're all like a little bit more like used to higher levels of stimulation. So like having a moving picture is a higher level of stimulation than staring at the nice woodwork of the bar only, right? And so like engaging people in the way that they're typically engaged, but with something different is hard to balance, but could be part of that equation.
Yeah. It's
All about the vibe.
Yeah.
It's all about the
yeah,
vibe.
and each place is different, and it's I don't know. I guess every place has to figure it out, and I think
Every day is different too, right?
right.
Every day is a winding road.
Thanks, Cheryl. Let's go out on that. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
First Cheryl Crow.
we
quote
were gonna.
on
I'm
the-
not. We'll get to the next letter next time.
Yeah.
It's a great letter, so I want to give it its time.
Yeah.
But thanks to Doug
Von Weissen.
Von Weisen for the sliding door conversation.
I'm gonna watch that movie.
My
Yeah.
only critique
Called
on that
Gwyneth
Paul
letter
Giamatti.
Is that a Gwyneth Paltrow
is
movie?
that
Is it Gwyneth
Connors
Paltrow?
was
Oh,
missing
I love
an
her. She's
apostrophe,
inspirational for me.
and that
Yeah.
bummed me out.
What was your?
Connors was missing an apostrophe, and that bummed me out.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe it was plural.
Maybe I typed it wrong.
Oh, that's possible.
There were
See,
two,
there you
there were
go.
2 Connors. Did you listen to
You're
the
welcome,
show?
Doug. I've covered for you.
No, I don't. I read. I post. I don't read.
There you go.
Well, I think that's that. I think we've filled up our time. So,
Our sentence is over.
yes. Is there anything you would like to say before we get out of here?
We're having a holiday market on December 7th with a bunch of
Ooh.
artists and creators selling their wares in our tap room.
Look at you
Nice.
plugging,
Yeah, I got to plug something.
plugging
So,
stuff. Cool.
Check out our Instagram for details.
Wow, you're really plugging.
There you
At
go.
is
Even
West
I
Brewing.
don't do that.
What's your address?
5121 North Ravenswood.
Yeah, there you go. Samantha, anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
Yeah,
Doesn't
we-
need to be a plug, but it can be.
Well, we also have a holiday market
Hey.
the week after.
There we go.
So,
Nice. Glad we coordinated that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Very welcome. Sorry it took so long. Well, don't be so long for the next time. Adam,
When's your holiday market?
Bev. Yeah.
I don't believe in holiday markets, but we've got lots of events at all the 3 stores going on. We have
Check your local listings.
greatbeer.com, and we have events calendars and all that kind of good stuff.
You get the Harvest Paleo.
And the Harvest Pale Ale and Tank Beer is on at I think all 3 locations right now too.
Oh, yeah, look, I got him to plug Hopewell.
There you go.
Nice. We have a Hopewell beer
That's
on. I'm
true
not going to plug it.
inception.
What do you think about that?
I think you just did.
Oh, I'm going to cut it out.
Negative space plug.
Also, little do you know, by the time this comes out, it won't be on anymore because
Maybe.
I could
Hopefully
plug
not.
something. Here, I'll plug it. We're doing a Fobab preview event. It'll be gone by the time this show goes
Yeah,
up.
Phobabs this weekend.
Yeah, I
Oh my
know.
God!
Oh
We didn't
my
even talk
God,
about
it
Fobab.
is.
So
Holy
we're all just
shit.
gonna. Should we just hang in the Lager Lounge? Because that's.
I don't think I'm going to go.
I'm not
fine.
going.
I don't think I'm going to go.
I'm
I
gonna
might.
I can't.
I'm
As
gonna
we
go
said before, I
Saturday.
do my sad drinking at home.
We did make a barrel-aged
Right.
barley wine, though.
Did you enter it or did you
Yeah,
enter Phobe?
we entered it.
Nice.
I know.
So there were like 40 Play-Doh ones.
Well, I'll be there on
Yeah.
Saturday.
We do have some interesting beers I do want to try at the preview event. Some of them sound pretty interesting. I will say we had some good memories when we, what do you call it? We trolled. We trolled Fobab.
I don't know if it was trolling.
I think it was.
It's
It was
genuinely
It was.
trying-
If you put a hashtag Fobab 2024 screen or something like that, or Fobab moments or something like that, and we took multiple pictures of you, I believe.
Yep.
And then
Looking great.
And then we would just take like the edit. You know how you could do the little edit draw with your finger on an iPhone picture, and we would just say, "Where's the dust, bro?" and just have a picture of you, and it would go up huge
And that was
on the
last year.
giant projector.
Oh, yeah, that's trolling. I think so.
That is totally
It
trolling.
was definitely trolling.
What do they do now? Do they
They might
do X?
They might do the same screen.
Do they do
thing.
blue sky?
Probably.
That's.
And
yeah,
if someone listens to this live on WLPN before it goes, which it's not going to be possible because it won't get to them in time, do it. Troll them. Troll that screen.
Troll that screen.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We were cracking up.
It was very fun.
We were tee-hee-heeing like little children. Tee-hee, look what we did.
Look at that.
Look, it's your picture. We're ruining what they're trying to do.
And at a certain point, it was just almost entirely pictures.
We just kept doing it. Yeah. And about zombie dust.
Yeah.
And we were cracking ourselves up.
We thought we were very funny. Still are.
Yep. Well, we still are, as we've proven over the last hour and a half or so. I want to thank our guests, and I want to thank all the listeners yet again, and thanks to the letter writers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you next time. So long.
Remember, this is what we want.
Heck yeah, I am the Fade Master. You all know it.
To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, again,